What's up, y'all? Hope everybody is well. I wanted to chime in on this because, again, we're often talking about the present moment as if our elders and our ancestors haven't been saying the same thing for hundreds and hundreds of years. And it's exhausting to rehash the same kind of conversations over and over again as if they don't have a historical foundation to them. And so right now I'm talking about the Jane Campion, I can't even call it a microaggression because it was a macroaggression, who I did not realize was a Kiwi, but that's important to know. And it's important to know in the sense that, let me catch you all up. Jane Campion is a director, in case you haven't noticed. She's a director who won the BAFTA, I believe, the other day for her film, whose name I can't think of, something about a dog. But she won Best Director Award. And while on the stage for her speech, she decided, she was the only woman in an all-male category, also an entirely white category. And she decided in the middle of her speech to call out Venus and Serena Williams and to basically compare her win to their winnings and to remind them that they don't have to play against the men. And there's so many levels to this that I had to talk about it. I wasn't gonna, but there's so many levels. And so level number one is Jane Campion is from Aotearoa, New Zealand. And I think that's important because the type of, and I've said this before, the type of racism that I experience in Aotearoa has very much been the Jane Campion kind, right? It is, I call it, I call it diet racism, but and actually, let me say it is, right? Like, on the scale of the kind of racism that will pull out a gun and shoot you or hang you in a jail cell, I'll take this kind. I'll take the, subliminally, the kind that is about subliminally reminding you that I view you as inferior. I would rather maneuver that in a strategic way than to maneuver hung in a jail cell. But don't get it confused. It's still white supremacist delusion, and it's still racism. And Aotearoa is very much capable of white supremacist delusion and racism. And all locations of settler colonial violence will have inside of them anti-blackness, because that's the nature of the beast. So that's point number one, is stop pretending that Aotearoa is some sort of racial utopia. It is not. And that the sort of subtle racism that we saw in Jane Campion is very, 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 very commonplace here. Second point is that, what was my second point? I almost lost it. That it is similar to a video I did a few weeks ago where we were talking about the news coverage from reporters as it relates to the war in Ukraine and the blatant racist, white supremacist, delusional statements that were falling out of people's faces immediately, right? And the opportunity to see that sort of subliminal implicit bias, that sort of latent white supremacist delusion, to when it comes out your face, it's an opportunity, it's presenting you with an opportunity to be like, oh, those are the things lurking in my subconscious that I haven't thought about. When I talk about the indoctrination of the bodily hierarchy, right? When I talk about the ways we have really embodied the ladder of bodily hierarchy, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the ways subconsciously that you are constantly comparing yourself to other people based on race, age, size, gender, sexual orientation, all of the axes of identity in which society has stratified us. And so sometimes your little subconscious brain will just blurt out some fucked up shit, will blurt out some racist-ish, some white supremacist delusion. And it's an opportunity, if you are a person who desires to de-indoctrinate yourself from that system, it's an opportunity to look at it. That's one thing. And so it seems to me that Jane Campion was given an opportunity to, if she so chooses, to actually look at the deeper subliminal messages that she holds, right? And to actually interrogate them. It's a moment, it's an offering to interrogate them, if she should so take it. But part of the reason people don't take that is because so many people rally around to try to protect white people from the discomfort of them telling on themselves about their own white supremacist delusion, right? It's like everybody wants to like come in and shelter and, and soften the blow of reality that is present when people step into their own shit, right? I was like, you dropped the turd, then you walked in it. That's the universe wanting to let you know something about how your bowels are operating and how you are watching where you're going. But if everybody comes and shovels the shit before you step in it, then you never get to learn the lesson. You just leave the shit there for other people to deal with. And they don't even shovel the shit. They just usher you along real quickly so that you don't have to be aware of it. Stop doing that to people. You are stealing their opportunity for growth. You are thwarting their opportunity to transform. Because when these opportunities come up, when these issues come up, there are opportunities to transform a subconscious way of being that is harmful, to raise it to consciousness, and then to practice that thinking, doing, being thing that we talk about in radical self-love, that actually allows us to raise those things to consciousness so they're not our default, and then transform them intentionally. So stop trying to protect people from their own transformation. You are not helping anyone. And so all of the people who are on these streets talking about, well, Jane didn't mean it that way, and all of these other things. Well, look, here's the other thing. People are often like, well, look, Venus and Serena smiled. They didn't seem to mind. And as soon I saw a post on Instagram today from Brittany Packett Cunningham, who, by the way, has the same birthday as me. Shout out, Scorpio friend. Talking about the history of people laughing off microaggressions, of Black women laughing off microaggressions, of the ways in which we just, laugh off things that aren't really funny because it's a survival mechanism. And I read that and I was like, wait a minute. Maya Angelou has a poem about this. And then I was like, wait a minute, Paul. And then I went to Maya Angelou's thing and was like, wait a minute. She's mentioning Paul Laurence Dunbar, who has We Wear the Mask. And so I just want to share this clip of this poem for you all so that you understand. This poem is from the 1970s. Paul Laurence Dunbar's poem is from the 1940s. Black people have been telling you how it is that we respond to your violences. And so to say that Serena and Venus laughed it off is not at all some sort of some sort of I hate COVID has done this to me in words. It is not some sort of get out of jail free card for Jane Campion. It is not an acquittal of her behavior or her language, right? And so here, I just want you to listen to this clip real quick. Angelou. This poem is We Wear the Mask.
Girl, I say, yes, ma'am, for working's sake. I'm too proud to bend and too poor to break. So, I laugh. until my stomach ache when I think about myself. My folks can make me split my side. I laughed so hard, I nearly died. The tales they tell sound just like lying. They grow the fruit, but eat the rind. I laugh until I start to cry when I think about myself and my folks and the little children. My fathers sit on benches. Their flesh count every plank. The slats leave dents of darkness deep in their withered flank, and they nod like broken candles, all waxed and burnt profound. They say, but sugar, it was our submission that made your world go round. There in those pleated faces I see the auction block, the chains and slavery's coffles, the whip and lash and stock. My fathers speak in voices that shred my fact and sound. They say, but sugar, it was our submission, and that made your world go round. They laughed to shield their crying. They shuffled through their dreams. They stepped and fetched a country and wrote the blues in screams. I understand their meaning. It could and did derive from living on the ledge of death. They kept my race alive by wearing the mask.
I would like for us to consider that Venus and Serena's response is as much polite as it is epigenetic. That it is as much history as it is, the politeness of, upper class award gatherings. That it is as much a matter of survival that we laugh at the violence of white supremacist delusion as it is anything to do with our acceptance of it. And I believe we're in an age and a time where it's time for white people to take responsibility for the implicit and explicit, the subconscious and the conscious machinations of white supremacist delusion, regardless of whether or not Black people have found ways to numb or to lessen the impact of that violence on ourselves. White people do better. White women do better. Really.